Hi, Emily.
How are you? Where are you?
I'm in Ghent, in Belgium. How is it going with the festival?
It's going good. Hello, Nadia.
Hello, Emily. I'm in Kyiv, Ukraine. I'm seeing these posts from VdR2022 3 years ago when we were there, and it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Good memories. So it was nice.
Let's hope we can do that soon enough in another world. Where are you exactly in Ukraine?
I'm in Kyiv, in my home, in my place. I was in the hub in Egypt, Sinai, when the war broke out, and then I came back, and I'm now home. It's relatively safe here because Kyiv region was liberated and the Russian forces moved to the east and southeast. But there are constant, there is a risk of airstrikes and you know, chemical weapons and all the things you probably read in the media. So it's the best place on earth at the moment, and also a scary place a little bit, but I felt relieved when I came back. It feels good to be home as it never felt.
Oh, wow. There is someone here that came from Kyiv as well.
I know, you mean the
Iurchenko, you know her?
Her film is called The Earth.
The Earth is Spinning.
The Earth is Spinning.
Exactly.
I'm in one of the chats, filmmakers, self-organized chats with her. I don't know her in person, but I know this workshop, and I also did my first film with this workshop back in 2015. So it's, we kind of all know each other somehow. It's a small world.
Yeah, it felt very strange to, you know, welcome her, knowing that we are here doing this festival and she's coming from there. So we had a good talk yesterday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. And there is also Maria Stoyanova, but I haven't met her yet.
Maria Stoyanova, she's in Vision.
Yes, she is. No, she has a project with
Yeah.
Fragments of Ice.
With the project in the industry.
Yes.
This film that I was mentioning that we did in a workshop called Indie Lab, we did together with Maria as co-directors.
Well,
My very first film about the Orthodox priest who is LGBT friendly Orthodox priest, like the proper Orthodox priest. And we also went to the same university, so she's a good friend and we know each other. Say hi to Maria.
we will.
I didn't know she's coming. I didn't know she was
Yeah.
Nice that you can provide some decency and
I mean,
life.
again, you know, it feels very strange to, you know, be here and, you know, have them and know that, you know, they must have all those things in their head. But that's what we said, you know, we said, if you want to, you know, get out, take a break, we're happy to welcome you. You just let us know how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to start, or?
I'm not. I shall ask to Elena.
I like, Artem, that you're the only one that has a very clear vision du réel background.
I just came 1 hour ago.
Are you in Vision, Artem? In Lyon?
Yeah. Because I was in France for 3 days to take some military equipment, and I go to Lviv after directly from here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Delivering aid.
Yeah, it's like on the way. After I will come in Lausanne, also I need to take one MacBook for one teacher of mathematics in Karpaty that I will bring to him. So.
And then you fly to Poland and you take a bus, or how do you go back?
No, I have, because since 1 month, even more, since first days of war, I do this. So I'm with my car, I made already almost 20,000. Yeah, almost 20,000 kilometers since the beginning.
I just received a message of our online responsible, and we can proceed. We can go.
Okay. I will just say hi and then I will leave you the floor.
Ok. Donc, on y va.
So, hello everybody. I feel like we are online. Let me just check if we are online. Yes, we are online.
We are.
Hello everybody. Welcome to this very special talk that we have decided to organize. It shouldn't actually be a talk. Even the idea for us was to try and allow Ukraine directors, filmmakers, producers still in Ukraine or not to have a discussion about, you know, how images can contribute, can participate in what's happening, how they, you know, maybe contribute in different manners, positively or negatively. So we thought we wanted to offer this platform and kind of like welcome anybody who wanted to take part, again, like just so that there is space for to hear those voices and have this kind of like inside view of what's happening in terms of image production. So I would like to very much thank the people that are with us today. There is Artem Iurchenko, director, who is, as you can see, in our offices in Lyon. Very good background. There is Nadia Parfan, who came a few years ago with a film called Hit Singers, filmmaker as well, and Illia Gladshtein, who's a producer who produced Hit Singers as well. I'm gonna leave the floor to my esteemed colleague, Emmanuel, Chicon, and Violetta Bava from the selection committee. And I hope this discussion will be fruitful and fertile. Have a good discussion.
Thank you very much, Emily. I would like maybe to begin to start the discussion. Ask to you the first open question. After the 24th of February, the resistance was organizing to fight against the aggression. Where were you at that time, and how did you decide to react and to resist towards this onslaught and ongoing aggression, and with which means? Who want to start?
Nadia, would you like to start?
Maybe.
Hello.
Yes, maybe I can. Hello, thanks for having us, and thanks for changing your program and finding space for this conversation. I also hope it can be fruitful, and it is also the moment when we can maybe reflect a little bit on what we are experiencing, because the reality after February 24th has been very intense. It feels like one long day ongoing, and we often don't have time to talk and think. We're busy responding to all kinds of needs. So I hope it helps. It might also be therapeutical, but also structurally insightful. As for me personally, I went to Dahab, Sinai in Egypt. It's something of winter residency that I have. I like this place. It's a little Bedouin village, and I went there to work on a fiction script, on my first fiction script. And on February 22nd, when Putin did his statement, I had an internal deadline to finish the draft. I was late. The producer wrote me, "Hey, what's with your script?" And I said I needed more time till the morning. And I think it started from then on that I was struggling. And when the morning of February 24th came, it was clear that script writing is something very odd and very irrelevant to the situation. I spent the first months of the war in Egypt, in the hub. And the first week was very intense and chaotic, I think, for any Ukrainian. It was, I was trying to use my position that I was in a safe place connected to the internet. I was helping to evacuate people, my family, my friends, my closest ones, from the burning spots. And I was like coordinating the evacuation, which was really chaotic at the moment. Nobody knew what to do. There was like a lot of stuff going on, and the whole Ukraine felt like one chat where everybody coordinated everything. then things got, I wouldn't say settled, but then some procedures and structures started to appear, a lot of grassroots self-organization on the people's side. And I thought that maybe I can be more useful with something else. And I'm a film director, but I also run an online cinema called tagflix.com. We screen mostly also driven Ukrainian films, but also classics, documentaries, independent films. And we started organizing charity screenings all over the world. And it came naturally because some colleagues of mine started approaching me and asking for some suggestions for films and helping them get the rights and the screening copies. So with the leftovers of our Tagflix team, the ones who were connected and the ones who could respond to this, and it was not the case for everyone, we tried to coordinate it, mostly myself personally, because I was safe, and it went really nice. And there was a huge demand and response, because it's also explaining what Ukraine is and what this war is about, explaining sometimes really basics, but also just introducing people to Ukrainian culture, which to us is very vivid and deserves to be seen. Unfortunately, we would prefer it to be recognized under different circumstances, but we have what we have. But it was nice, yet as I was doing this, I felt very disattached from Ukraine, and I was physically safe, but it was a big struggle for me mentally. And I thought what I should really do. I was very hesitant, and at some point I made a decision to go back to Ukraine. And it's not a very rational thing to some, but to me it felt right. And I also did this magical delivery of my camera to the hub, and I decided to document my travel home, because I'm coming back to my home country, the country that I know best, the city that I know best. At the same time, I'm coming as a foreigner to a country at war that I never saw. So it was a long, complicated, existential journey that I tried to film. And I also volunteered with different friends and initiatives on the way, with people who are buying used cars and sending them to the army, with people in humanitarian aid spots and all kinds of things, filming. I visited my grandma in Western Ukraine, and my family in Western Ukraine has been hosting 6 families of people who evacuated, one of them being my friend from Mariupol, who managed to escape with his family. So it was an interesting place in Ivano-Frankivsk. And then I came back to Kiev, and at the moment I'm in Kiev. I have been helping some German journalists. We went to Bucha, to the place of the massacre. I was there yesterday. I was translating and helping organize some interviews. And so I'm at the moment, I'm just being present, and a friend calls this, the labor of witnessing. That's what I'm doing. And also the labor of witnessing the witnesses. I think that's my point now.
Maybe we can listen right now, Artem, because you were speaking about the fact to be outside and then coming back inside. And Artem's got more or less the same experience as far as you are living currently in Paris. And when the war broke out, you decide to cross the frontier, but in the other sense, the other direction, towards Kiev, and you were at that time undergoing a film project about some friends based in Kiev, trying to record the Kiev atmosphere before the war, and it stopped when the war broke out. Can you just explain to us what was your reaction, and how did you put yourself in the action, like Nadia was telling to us just before?
Yeah, in fact, I'm living in Paris, in France, since almost 15 years already. So, but every year, a few times in the year, like every 2-3 months, I go back to Kiev my hometown, and I love the city. And I've just bought an apartment in the Podil, in one of central quartier of the city. So I was to finish the works in my apartment, in my new apartment, on the beginning of February. And on the beginning of January, I started a new documentary about the life in Kiev, and with the question of how to live in Kiev, how to live in Ukraine with this danger of the war, with this context. And they filmed one couple in the center of my movie, one couple of the artists, visual artists, from Kiev, and we have spoke a lot about politics and war, but not just about that. It was also just everyday life and work in the workshop and creation and exhibitions and all kind of things like this. And so after like around 15 maybe February, I came back to Paris, and I wanted to go back to Kiev end of February to finish the works in my apartment and to start the second shooting of my movie. But the 24, I was woke up by the news early in the morning, and it was, I will never forget, I think this woke up because I had a cauchemar in my dream. And it was in Kiev, and it was some kind of very violent thing that I don't see often in my dreams. And when I woke up, the first thing I feared, it was that there is this bombings in Ukraine, and I understood that in fact this cauchemar, it's the new reality. And like normally when you wake up after cauchemar, you say, oh, okay, it's okay, I'm in real life. But there it was not the same. So I think the 25, I was prepared already to go first on the border, because I didn't know how is it. I never was in the war, but I knew that I cannot just live in Paris and to observe it. I need to do something. And this something for me, it was not at all shooting of the movie. I didn't think about this any second after 24. And so when I prepared myself, I prepared my car, I've made just all the tests, you know, to change the all mechanics to have a car in good condition, because I knew that I will make a lot of kilometers. I didn't know what I will do exactly, but I knew that it will be useful. And I knew that I go for some few weeks, maybe months, I don't know. So yeah, I found the solution because I have a son who is 5 years old. So I found the solution for him to be with someone. And the next day I went to the border directly. When I came in Medica, already I found a family of 3 people. There was one mother, like 45 years old, maybe, with a daughter 17 years old, and the boy of 8 years old. And I took them and I bring, without any pause, I bring them to Warsaw from the border. So I've made like 1,500 kilometers to go to the border, and just 8 people in 5 minutes I found. And I went back to Warsaw, but it was for the first time since these first 3 days of the war, like first time when I could really breathe and feel like a human, like, okay, I do something, even this little thing, it's something already. So I can do this, and I will see what I can do else. So first reactions, it was this engagement in transporting people from the border, transporting refugees. But of course, it was not enough for me. And very soon, like second day already, I went with my passport just by walking first in Ukraine to see, is it possible to come back for me? Because I knew also that I'm not a soldier, so it will serve for nothing if I just go like this in Ukraine to take the gun and to go. I mean, I will be dead in one day and nothing will change for my country. But here in this situation with French passport and with my car, it can do a lot of things. And yeah, like this, little by little, I went inside with my car and I went to Lviv and we made this performance, or I don't know how to say, with GR, with visual artist from France. We have made this photography 45 meters long of Ukrainian refugee 5-year-old girl called Valeria. So with these photos that I took, we have made NFT with few 100,000 euros that we gave for the army, and not for the army, but for humanitarian helps and for helps. After I had a lot of small collecting also of money, and some friends who are soldiers now or in territorial defense in different cities of Kiev. There was few who asked me for thermal scopes. So it's a thing that is pretty difficult to find now in Poland, for example. So I found it in Italy, in France. I found money to buy it because it's a little expensive. Like one good thing like this costs around 3,000 euros. So for now I've bought like 5 or 6 like this that I bring. I collect money also and buy some medical stuff like these things to stop bleeding when you are injured. Now I come from Paris and I'm in Lyon because I was in Paris to take some stuff, also some equipments, and I have my car here. Just I came in Lyon today, and tomorrow I go to the border to bring this computer for one teacher of mathematics in Karpat, who is refugee from Kiev, and he prepared children refugees for the exam of the end of the year, and he needs some computer because he don't have any. And after I bring this military and humanitarian and medical equipment, but all the time it's defensive, it's not the guns, it's all the time some drones, thermal stuff or medical stuff. So I bring this to Lviv, and after we have kind of logistic system already with my friends, who are my friends since Maidan, since 2014, who can bring it after to Kharkiv, Mariupol, Kiev, and everywhere where people need. So there is this like small projects, small actions. It's even not a project, but after there is different kind of projects, because I have a project more like cultural with the posters that because I'm an artist by my education, by my diploma in Ukraine and in France. And so I have a lot of artist friends in Kiev and in Europe. And I proposed this thing to print the posters with the manual techniques like an etching or lithography or serigraphy, seal printing, with a small limited tirage. And after to put half of tirage in Ukrainian cities, take it on the photo, and the other part we made vente aux enchères, an auction on the internet, to buy also some stuff like thermal scopes that is really necessary for the not really for the army, but more for territorial defense who don't have this kind of financial help from the country.
This help, you were saying before when we met here in Lyon, that the territorial defenses were quite poorly equipped because the support and supply of European states goes directly to the army, but the territorial defense is it's a huge number compared to the army.
Yeah, sure. And it depends also of the city, but there is, for example, in Kiev, okay, the guys have a lot of stuff, but they need more, for sure, to be more protected, to be more prepared. But there is the cities like even Zaporizhia, for example. I just had a call 15 minutes ago, and they need some kind of stuff like this, some defensive stuff, because there is a lot of cities where the guys who are not soldiers by the profession, but some barista or some artist or some cinematographer, they have like one cask and one Kevlar protection gilet for 6 person. It's like statistically it's like this. So it's really necessary. So everything that Europeans see in the infos, it's good that there is a British Prime Minister who came and who gives his support, and there is all this hundreds of millions of euros of military support. But we need to understand that all this support, first, it takes a long time to come to Ukraine because there is so many procedures and papers and bureaucracy before it comes. I mean, it will not take the years, but it will take the weeks, and the weeks in this situation, it's too long sometimes. And secondly, all this help will come to the army, and there is the army, but there is the huge part of defense of Ukraine who is not the army professional, but this territorial defense, and they don't have almost any help. All the help that they have, it's the help from people, from volunteers, and it's huge help, but they need a lot more.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I would like to hear now Illia Gladshtein regarding your own position right now, and what did you do as a producer, but as a citizen of Ukraine also since the beginning of war, compared to the experience that Nadia or Artem were just telling to us right now?
So we were together with Nadia actually in the hub when everything started. So part of the story is similar. The first week was like really not really remembered because it was just too much of information and just absolutely like it was a huge flow, you know, that just takes you away. And I also helped to evacuate my workers because I have a cinema in Kiev, which was of course closed, and my colleague, she was residing in the place of Kiev where like the battle was happening, so she was going away. She just escaped Kiev by her legs, so she was walking and I was coordinating her way out, and on her way in Europe as well. Then besides film, it's just my pet project in Kiev is community management, neighborhood community. I have organized a group of people who live around our house in Kiev, and during wars and any other critical situations, community becomes a part of national security, because you know, when like you don't have like the central authority, or they don't know, they don't have any instructions, you have to do something on your own, and it became a very important instrument the first weeks of the war, of communicating, of helping each other, of finding medicines and looking for routes to escape Kiev. So I was moderating that, and it was like quite a complicated thing because it was also a part of information war, which is still going on, and there were a lot of fake news that was spreading, and people were you know, they were not critical about information. So we did, we were working like by shifts, moderating it, because like there were around 1,000 people in it, and it was actual during like 2 weeks from the start. And yeah, then we with other people, with other community activists from Kiev, we organized like a group that would unite different neighborhood communities, and also like help them with instructions. And also because a big amount of volunteering started, everybody did everything, and it was quite not effective on the city level, because there were a lot of old ladies, for example, left in the city, that in their apartment, and they would need some medicine, and then there were like a volunteer with a car from another part of the city, and they would drive there and help her to buy like one medicine in a drugstore. But it is totally ineffective, because it would be much easier for that lady to ask her neighbor, and she would usually not know her neighbor, because like it's not a usual thing, a good neighborhood, a good house community. So we started to promote people to organize their house communities, like people to get to know to their neighbors, to organize storage, for example, with water, to buy fire extinguishers and stuff like that. So we did promotion in that. And also I produced a workshop on the first aid, first medical aid. And we did a video just recently, also published it for the civilians, because it's also a thing that the most of effort is going to the soldiers, to the army and territorial defense, of course, and the people are getting the arms and the equipment. But then there are people in the cities who are left without support, and it's also a big part of the defense system, because you know, if people, because they support army as well, and it's important for them, because like all fighting is being held for them. So somebody had to think about them. And in a month after being in Egypt, I was invited to residency in Ghent, so I came here. We'll probably join Nadia in Ukraine in several weeks, but it will see also the political and the war situation. If everything happens to be like that, like today, I will be there.
May. Yeah,
Yes.
No, okay. Please.
Nadia, I was thinking when you mentioned, well, first, thank you very much to the three of you for sharing. It's really very precious to really get and understand from you and to sharing at Vision de Réel. I'm part of the selection committee, and of course, we will be following closely the news and what's going on through you, dear filmmakers. And when you mentioned, Nadia, the idea of witness of the witness, and also your journey home, this very particular journey home that you managed to have a camera in this witnessing of the witness, are you having some sort of images? Are you trying to record, or is not the moment that you cannot even now in this process do that?
That's a very good question that I keep asking myself. I mean, I think all of the Ukrainians and maybe non-Ukrainians have very ambiguous feelings and have these mood swings about very basic feelings. Sometimes you feel euphoric because you feel like, oh, it's going to be over soon and we're going to have a new life after the war. And sometimes you get really down because you realize the scale of what has already happened, the scale of what is unknown and what might happen later. And this uncertainty, I don't think there has any been more uncertainty in my life or in my country's life, and it's devastating. So as I said, maybe I was telling the story to someone else. This idea of documenting my journey home and coming back to documentary film, non-fiction film, as I was writing the script, I wanted to shift from that. It came to me in a dream, in this in-between state when you're not yet awake but no longer sleeping. It's something subconscious, and I tried to follow it because it was maybe the first idea I had during the war, because you are so overwhelmed and you are so I don't know, it's a very special and intense experience. Basically, you don't have ideas. Art, film, anything is impossible in these circumstances, not only because it's just like unreasonable, but because it's physically impossible, because your basic foundations of your life, of the life of your dearest ones, is threatened. There can't be no art in that state. And then it suddenly popped out. So I was really even happy to feel something like that, to have that thought occur. But as I was filming, as I was trying to film, I kept hesitating, and I'm still hesitant. And it's a big question to me whether what is the relevant film, what story is there to be told, who is, like, really a simple filmmaking question, who is the protagonist, what is the film, what am I trying to say by doing this? And it's an open question. I'm not a filmmaker who likes to do self-documenting. I never did this before. And honestly, to me, the excitement of doing film, and especially documentary film, is that relationship between me, the person behind the camera, and somebody in the frame. And there always is this amazing chemistry and the relationship, and I'm excited about it, and that's where I get everything from. So when the person on the other side is me, I kind of get bored. I don't find myself an interesting protagonist, but at the same time, there is so much of everything happening. It is so overwhelming. It is so difficult to find focus and to find the ground, that I only have me as the lens I can observe the situation from, and also being honest with myself. So you see, this is a very big challenge for me as a director, to find a way to tell the story. There is definitely this road movie and journey element, just the change of the landscape and the gradual increase of the presence of war, all the way from the very, very peaceful Dahab, where there were Ukrainians, there was some kind of local activism happening as well, but it's very distant. And then yesterday I was in Bucha 2 times. And in the first time I was just filming from the car, the way we entered. And yesterday I took the camera and I was translating the testimonies of people whose families are found missing. And I wrote about this. I had to secretly cry while translating. It is such a painful thing. It's even more painful than to bury someone, because you don't even have that opportunity to grieve. You are hopeful, but that hope is kind of doomed. It is, and I only talked to a few people. I didn't spend too much time, so I wasn't able to film anything, and filming anything felt irrelevant. So it's a big question how to tell the story, and at the same time there is this overproduction of imagery that also it's a longer story about the opposition and the tension between media image production and documentary film, that we kind of have to be different. We always were like that. We are at the opposing camp. But because the media is producing so much and so much of everything in Kiev, so Kiev is like a half-abandoned city now. It's a very big city. It's a 4 million people city, very busy, lots of traffic, lots of everything normally. And now suddenly, like, you walk in the middle of the street and there are no cars. Of course, it's changing now. People are slowly coming back, but being in Kyiv now is a very, 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 very special experience. But I would say there is at least like 1,000 international journalists, and you see a lot of people with the cameras, a lot of people producing photographs, videos, and I'm trying to understand what my voice is for me as an artist in the face of eternity and in the face of history, but also as for me as a non-journalist, like what do I have to add that's relevant? And we are slow as documentary filmmakers. It takes years to make a film, and how do I comprehend this? So it's an open question as of now. And maybe just a last comment that suddenly, like, I found that I'm a very sentimental and poetic person. Suddenly, like, I don't know if you see this light coming. It's the first sunny day today since very long. It's very cold. There is no heating. And suddenly this whole light, and I'm like looking at myself in the light and asking if this is really meaningful, or if this is me being graphomanic and sentimental. I don't know if I answered your question, but just to explain you what kind of film I'm working on, if you could say so. And it might not even be a film at all,
No, you did actually more than I expected, because you really went to the point on how difficult it is, and what's the question about what images and how, and what are and what's the priority now, which is of course there's something that has to do with life that is before the images, but then there's something about the identity and the persons, the professionals you are, and the worry of how these images then maybe will be relevant. And it's thank you, Nadia. It's really the most generous answer. And yes, we have a new guest. So maybe before we...
I would like to welcome in that talk Maksym Nakonechnyi, who is producer of one of the film that was pitched here of Maria Stoyanova, and also a filmmaker. Your next movie will be in a very big festival very soon, in May. You got only 20 minutes. That's what I understood, to talk with us.
Yeah, great. Perfect timing. Yeah. Hello.
Hello. Hello, and thank you very much to join, to jump in the current discussion. We were talking about the way that Ukrainian filmmakers or professionals involved in the cinema activity could be in the resistance with images, and how to find maybe if it's possible in the emergency of war, trying to find images that are not just stuck in the flow and the mediatized conflict, which is quite difficult. But I would like to hear you about that, about some collective, for example, for Babylon 13, who gathered some people who are collecting images or filming the current situations, and what about also your practice nowadays?
Well, it's actually a very broad topic that you're discussing here today, and thank you for the invitation. Regarding if to start with my own experience, I would say that in my case, and probably I'm not alone, but shooting footage is first of all kind of a compulsive action, because everyone here feels the need and feels the urge to do something where they can be the most useful, and yeah, and only then you somehow feel this urge, and then force yourself to structurize this work and to focus not on everything what surrounds you, because even the routine images around, even if it's a city without hostilities at the moment, all these usual images of just a city or just people or anything, it gets new context and new sense, and that is why it's for me it was and it remains very difficult to focus on a story or to focus on some line, on some visual or sensual metaphors, and stop catching everything you meet on your way at some point, because it's really hard to answer the question, what are you doing at the moment? What am I doing at the moment? Am I creating a film? Maybe, I don't know. I have a few like stories which I'd love to follow. I have a few people whom I just met and whose stories are interesting to me personally as a human, first of all. But you never know, will it turn out into a story or not? Or are you creating a global archive of for just saving all this and then realizing what was that experience, what did that experience bring after all. So first of all, yeah, what I would mention is that thing that it's very hard, and you that is it's very hard to get an understanding what is, despite you feel the urge to shoot because you are a filmmaker and that's what you can do, it's really still very hard to find your exact place in this process, in this whole process, because as you already mentioned, this may also be a part of the resistance, as you said, but that also means there are some specific limitations, and you sometimes choose to follow them or not to follow them, because sometimes you have to adjust your rhetoric, you have to adjust your narration and observational style. You have to be quick somehow, you have to give your footage or you have to edit fast, because resistance has very specific purposes. Or you just tune into more global processes, which are also a part of the resistance, definitely, because anything that I mean, we have to be clear at the point, anything that strengthens Ukrainian identity, strengthens Ukrainian culture, keeps it alive and developing, is already a part of the resistance, because as we already see, the whole Ukrainian identity is under attack and trying to be to get denied and destroyed, and that's where I try to stick more to watch and to observe the signs and the features of our identity in this reality, and to see the influence on our identity and see its development. So yeah.
Maybe Artem and Illia could react to what Maksym was putting on the table, if I might say so. The question of images to strengthen Ukrainian identity and Ukrainian strongness. What to film, how to film, find the right place
Yeah, for me it was really hard to understand, also like for everyone here and for every filmmaker to understand what and how to film when it started. Just the only thing that maybe was like easier for me than for the others, it's that I already start the shooting just before it begins. So I had already this couple of central personages, I had already some texts that I started to write. And but first, already when I took my car first day, I forgot to put like half of material. I forgot to. Even didn't thought about taking microphones. You know, I just put the camera without batteries, without anything, with the tripod, and that's it. And so after like in 2 weeks, when it was more stable for me in my head, I thought, okay, now I can maybe find some sound, some microphones, some batteries. I can try, I can do something. So I found materials, but I didn't start to shoot anything. I just saw things, some few images maybe with my telephone. And the first thing that I shoot, it was in the night on the border. I took a camera and like around 4 o'clock in the morning, I saw this big bird, you know, I think it's stork in English, iced. This white and black bird who migrates every year to come in Ukraine end of spring, well, not end of spring, like now it comes to Ukraine. And it's first time in my life I saw one bird like this on the edge of the road and just on the border, like sick or I don't know, but it slept. And after when he saw me, he started to make some very beautiful movements with his body to turn. So it was first image that I made with the camera. And after like few weeks, I went for the first time. I went like a little far from the border to the Italy, and there I came to take some, to buy some stuff that I couldn't find in Poland. And there was one of my main protagonists who is there, one the girl from this couple of artists. She is in Italy and her husband, he is in Kiev. So of course there I've prepared myself and I made the 1 day shooting with her. So just these two things, bird and this girl. After, when I speak with my friends, I started to record our conversations on the internet and stuff like that. But it's difficult. It's really still difficult to put myself in this condition, you know, when you need to be a little distant as well. You cannot be inside of a reaction all the time and film. It's not the anyway. It's not the way I film. I need to be observer. I need to have, and I understand very well what Nadia said about this magic feeling and distance and some kind of energy between the person behind the camera and the person who is filmed. So yeah, it's I cannot film like with GoPro, you know, it's not my thing, and it's difficult to understand and to find a place. But I think that it can give something interesting for me as well, because I have this hours of material just before, and it's very interesting to see how all of us we were not prepared and not like everything that we imagined about this war. It was so far from reality, in fact. And I think that this thing we can feel it already, even when if we see what people said just few days before war started, and after with the images that we know, every one of us, we can feel already something about this war. So I think I need to continue to film, to shoot, but I don't know how still. I try to do something.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Artem. It's very interesting to hear you, and again, like the personal journey process and questions. And of course, we can totally empathize and understand, even though we are, of course, not there in your bodies and physically there, about the question and the difficulties. And I was wondering how you and maybe Illia can tell us something as a collective, even if you are in the same chat group in difference, but if someone needs, for instance, a tripod, a battery, and went without something, if this is happening, how much can you help for the others to produce something, images that, as you well mentioned, still need to be understood, and how this can be used or not, and not to repeat the media images and on all these very interesting things you have been pointing out. Illia?
So if you are asking about exchanging the things, you know, helping with the batteries and lenses, probably Maksym would be a proper person to answer, because he is on the spot and shooting from the first day. So maybe you would, Maksym, tell us about how the film community is self-organized, and what are your sources now of the equipment, and how you collaborate and help each other. And
it actually went out really brief, I would say, because actually once it all settled out in a few days, who had to go through the go to exile and settle up in another safer place. And they understood they could coordinate that, and also a lot of our friends from abroad started expressing their initiative to help and to assist. It actually a lot of multiple initiatives, fundraisers, and organizations joined their efforts, and I think gathered all of that in I would say few funds, among which there is also this DocuHelp fund arranged by DocuDays UA Film Festivals and several else. And it was really very helpful, first of all, in terms of getting the protection, because protection is both a matter of safety and also gives you much better access, because you know, as a filmmaker, it's very hard for you to explain what you are doing actually, because every time you get asked, are you a journalist, for which media you are working, you're saying, I'm artistic filmmaker making festival movies, shooting documentary archive for the future or anything else. But if you wear this special protection marked press, it also gives you good access, and everyone sees that you are like an accredited person before you get your accreditation and show it. And of course the equipment, because not all the people get and have enough equipment or get have access to their equipment. And of course, like, the events are rolling and developing day by day, so the storage which we're receiving is also very helpful. So I would say it's really it really has organized very well, due to very good and tight collaboration, and very strong communication and division of the people who gather the fund, collect the funds, and distribute them, people who collect the needs, and then coordinate them being purchased and anything, and being delivered, and people who are actually in the field and whom are placing their needs to the people who coordinate that, and then just go and film. So I would say it's totally DIY organizational process, but it worked out pretty fast and pretty well.
And there is
Here.
so yeah.
No, very good to hear and understand this, since Artem was mentioning these circumstances are also not the easiest one to get and to go with all the materials you need. Emmanuel?
Yeah, I was just wondering, listening to Maksym about the self-organization, the DIY way of dealing with or shooting images as far as possible in the current situation. Is it only that DIY and that solidarity between filmmakers is happening only in Kiev or in other parts of your aggressed country?
No, the geography is very wide. Well, I mean, because all the filmmakers are traveling around Ukraine, shooting what they need, and of course, like the aid is being delivered to several spots. I would say it's Lviv and Kiev, probably, and maybe Ivano-Frankivsk. But then, people who neither they just come to the DocuHelp office or Babylon office or our production company office or elsewhere and get what they need and then travel and get back. Yeah. So I would say the geography is quite wide, and I mean I would say DIY was only the process of the organization, but then the work itself, the communication, the supplemental logistics, it looked very professional after that.
If I may add to the geography, because I experienced this geography, I have a body of the camera, and we would normally rent the lenses because lenses are specific to the concept. So it was impossible to rent anything in Kyiv, and through the community of Indie Lab people, it's where Maria Stoyanova and I did our first film back in 2014. It's the big one of the chats. Somebody helped me get a lens, and it's like I borrowed it or I bought it. It's not even confirmed. And it somebody in Lviv, a film producer colleague in Lviv, helped. So somebody in Kyiv traveled it to Lviv. From Lviv, they traveled it to Uzhgorod. This lens came from a person in Uzhgorod. Then somebody brought it to me all the way to the hub. So the geography is like things are moving back and forth, and the circulation of people, things, shelters, everybody staying at everybody's place. The logistics is fucked up, if I may say so. At the same time, the logistical miracles are happening.
Because from the outside, we have the impression that the bombed cities are just closed district where nobody can go between two cities or two villages. But you seems to say that
this is true. For instance, Alexander Surovtsov, a film director who managed to escape Mariupol, a friend of mine, he could not take his camera with him because it was dangerous. And again, I talked to people in Bucha yesterday, and what happened during 1 month of the Russian occupation, there were shifts, and the first people, they would just break people's SIM cards. That the first thing that happens to the city in siege, not in siege, under occupation. It's a different thing. But then they got really furious, and they would break people's phones, and having any kind of equipment when the territory is not controlled or is challenged, it's dangerous. So this is definitely the case, and you can't help because there is no connection. But again, Ukraine is big, and the situation is dynamic. And I think in the burning points, there is no filmmaking whatsoever. So I doubt somebody is filming something in Mariupol now or in Donetsk and Lugansk region, but film industry is anyway concentrated in Kyiv, and that's a big privilege that we share. But you have to understand that we are the very, very, very privileged people in safe places, or I don't know, relatively safe places. People in dangerous places, they are not doing this, and there is no logistics.
And the people who go to the dangerous places, they actually have very high risk to die or to be damaged. And some of the photographers of people who we know, actually, one of them has died, and there are some journalists.
A lot of them already have suffered, right? Yeah.
Yeah, from international media. So it's just a question of life, you know. You just cannot go that far.
I'm sorry to jump again, but Mantas Kvadravičius got shot in Mariupol when he was trying to film, and he was captured, and then he was killed. So it's really like this is an ultimate threat to. It's so basic. The really basic security is under threat. So.
And yeah, that's actually just because I understood. I mean, what happened to Mantas and to everyone else, to Brent Renault, who was working for the Times Studios production, making documentary, and a lot of other people, the cases, they just showed me that we as a filmmakers and as the media workers, let's say, are not only endangered just because this war happens. This war is the war with the enemy who doesn't follow the, let's say, laws of war. But this war has such, due to the fact that we are creating senses, first of all, yeah, and this is a war of senses. It's a totally very, very illustrative post-truth war, where like the enemy side has its own truth, which it has been making up for a very long period of time, and now they are like it's not only the war of the weapons, it's the war of the, let's say, narratives and ideas, of course, and that's why people who create senses are one of the top enemies of Russia, and yeah. And that's why it's the matter of safety is also a big deal.
It's interesting because Kirsten Johnson, one of the guests of this edition of VdR, was saying this morning during a conversation that images was also one of the tools of war. What do you think about such a reflection, and how do you position yourself?
It was one of the main tools. It was one of the main tools. Not only images and words, of course, not I wouldn't say images themselves, but the context and the sense and the meaning that was given to those images, and the how they were presented, first of all. Because of course, like everywhere, images, weapons, anything all of that, they all those things, they don't kill themselves. You need to apply a human to start killing. But yeah, I would say images are the great part of the war. Yeah. They always were, but right now it's I would say it's the highest rank.
I would like to maybe take this idea longer, because what I also did, I wrote a text that I hope still to publish in some media about images that helped this war to be acceptable for a Russian population and also for a Western population, because we now know that Russian population accepts this war very good, like the acceptance rate of Putin and of the whole authority raised after the war has started, and this has a direct connection to the images. And the images that are now produced and how war is being covered is only a part of the long story of a long timeline of images that were produced before. And that because of this war became the revelation point, you know, when we actually know that Russia wants to demolish Ukraine and just to kill like as many people as possible if they don't want to be a part of Russia or part of the Russian influence zone. So taking that in a revelation point, now we understand that a lot of actions that Russian government did in different spheres were also part of this war, and an important and very important and one of the most important spheres or industries where the war was ongoing for tens of years is actually a film industry, imagery industry. And that's why, because I don't know, it's if you follow, but I did some research and collected a set of films that were mainly produced and shot for the internal use for Russian people. Ukrainians were depicted like as very bad people, as stupid, greed, traitors, Nazis, and stuff like that. And it was part of the whole universe of imagery that was produced by Russian media, and including festival films that were distributing all over the festivals and big events. And that became one of the reasons why Ukrainian film industry community demands a boycott of Russian films. It's not just because we are offended and we just want all Russian people to be silenced, but because like this is a mean of war that did not start on 24th of February. This process is happening already for tens of years. It started, I think, in images around 2003 from my research. And as the film was also a mean of war, it should be demined. You know, of course, there were some films, or there were some people who didn't work on this propaganda. But to understand that, we have to make this research done and to understand if this person in particular was not involved in creating the images that now made this war possible and acceptable for Russian population and also for many people abroad.
May I jump in and continue this? It's a very important point that Ukrainian film community made. To me, it's even more important than the self-organization and resistance within the context of culture and film. It's the cancel Russian culture and the boycott of Russian culture. And I know that VdR did not support the boycott, and there is at least one Russian film in the program. Sergei Loznitsa was excluded from Ukrainian Film Academy, and Ukrainian filmmaking community made this statement and appeal not to consider him a Ukrainian director because he uses his big authority in cinema to vocalize some messages that are against Ukraine and that support the post-truth and everything is not so clear kind of discourse, which is exactly what Russia tries to do. And of course, we don't like the black and white thinking, and critical thinking is important. But in the case of this war, it's pretty clear what is happening, and there is no way like now it is harmful and it is really helping Russia do horrible crimes. So it's a radical gesture that as people in Europe see it, but it's not. It's actually quite essential. And I'm just trying to explain a little bit the power dynamic and the power relations that were there for years. The problem with cinema and the context of institutions is that Ukraine was not recognized as the sovereign country by international community as well. And this is the post-colonial war where we are defending our sovereignty, our independence. And to us, we are an independent country since 1991, but it's also, there is a long history of Ukraine's struggle for independence. But to international community, a lot of times Ukraine was this like, post-Soviet, almost Russia something. And it was also treated in this colonial context where you have, and I don't know, I mean, I love VdR2022. It's one of my favorite festivals, and I really respect the programming job you guys are doing. It's always really impressive, striking films, and it gives me hope and inspiration. And you are the reason I'm still doing this. So I'm sure you know what you're doing, you know your job. But I'm now generalizing about how it works, as to my knowledge at festivals, that there are these regional sections, and there is this Eastern Europe and Russia, and there is somebody pre-selecting films from the region, and that somebody is often a Russian person in the West, or a Russian-speaking person in the West, and it eventually leads to Russian films being very well presented, very visible, very recognized. And these other countries that are in this region, countries like Ukraine, but also there is Moldova or Georgia. It's a big part of Russian land. The way the war in Chechnya was represented in film, like this is not the first Russian colonial war. Unfortunately, it's huge and it's now in the center of events. But there is a big history of Russian aggression, and the war in Ukraine is also a big question because it started in 2014. And European community, North American powers and governments, but also cultural institutions, to me, and this is not an accusation of you personally, but to me failed to recognize and wasn't accurate in understanding what is happening and responding to this. And often I personally had this experience when I was being accused of being a nationalist because I wanted to depict a story of a female intelligence fighter or volunteer fighter at war in Ukraine in 2014. And I received this patronizing feedback from some, I will not be mentioning them, but some very renowned people who wanted to teach me, to explain me what really is happening, rather than listen to me with my firsthand account of a Ukrainian living in Ukraine, living in the country which is at war. So now the reason this is happening is because Illia said, of course, not all Russian people support genocide. Basically, what is happening now is the genocide that Russians are doing to Ukrainian people. And of course, any decent person would say genocide is horrible and one should stop. But it has to be understood that Russian filmmakers and Russian films have enjoyed a lot of privilege since years. And as they benefited a lot from this colonial situation themselves, and it's maybe not so explicit. They didn't go and say, yeah, let's kill all Ukrainians, but they received their slots in film programs. They were shown at A-class festivals. They were given voice. They could vocalize opinions, and they very often used it for their individual benefit rather than actual political work, rather than doing something to their people, not leading to the situation when 70% of Russian population supports the war in Ukraine. And therefore, I'm not saying that we should completely withdraw the whole Russian culture, but I believe that now is the time to make a temporary moratorium to reconsider what Russian culture's role is in this war, and to think who is responsible for what and which things are no longer to be and which things can still be happening. I mean, I would be really happy if Russian filmmakers did critical films and did something to help people in Russia wake up. But unfortunately, this wasn't happening. And these films that are coming now at the festivals, to my knowledge, are not doing this job still. And this is like the moment when it's already too late. So, and also a lot of progressive Russian filmmakers just withdrew their films from the programs, and I think this is the right way to go with this.
Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you.
That's why for us it's very important to have this talk, to understand better, to hear you, to hear your positions. As you said, it's not necessarily easy from the outside perspective, not now, for years, to understand in depth. And from Vision de Réel, what we can say is that we don't have regional consultants. We all watch everything and we do pre-select. Actually, it's a lot of work. I'm not complaining for this region in general.
I share your position.
I complain with the artistic director. It's a lot of work, but we do, and we have had many Ukrainian films in the past, and we were very carefully paying attention to the Ukrainian films that would be possibly in the program and in the industry platform to help projects come out next, to have next Ukrainian films. And we are very
grateful for that, like, just to emphasize that this is not a personal accusation, that I know you're doing this, because my film, which is a strange Ukrainian film, premiered at Vision, so it's a sign.
No, just to share, we could have a regional consultant and could have been an Ukrainian, just that we don't have. So we do all the process, just it's to share how we do it, how we work, and maybe this is why we can pay like special attention and follow. And
of course, because we don't have any filter. The films are coming to us without any filter. But
regarding the filter, by the way, I just want to add, sorry for interrupting you. Now, as Nadia said, like what we are having now, it's a decolonizing war. And it's not that we are now trying to get out of this colony like Russia and their sphere of influence, but it's also the fight we have is also with the colonization view that is being normal in the eyes or in the visual mechanisms of European people, of Western European people, who are used to see Ukraine in a special way. And the thing is, it's important to understand that the filter is in your eyes, and it is organized and shaped in a particular way, and in a quite a big part, it is shaped by Russian cultural narrative about these territories where Ukraine is, not only about Ukraine, but about all post-Soviet, about all former Russian Empire. So the war that we are having now, and I want it to be one that everybody, especially in the international industry, is being aware about the filters they have in their eyes, not even with like physical filters, people who are doing that, but to detect this filter in your eyes and to do something with it. But, yeah, we Ukrainians are now probably being considered arrogant, but it's just with naming things quite directly. But that's like the situation when we have the rights to, Sorry if it sounded a little bit arrogant.
No, but you're right. We are trying in our position, and I would say, to share the view of Violetta, we are trying to be very humble, and we are especially we are trying to do our best to select and support also within the different platform of industry the young Ukrainian filmmakers and film professionals, because we find that it's essential that we receive gaze without any filter coming from the inside, not from the outside.
Yes, as you mentioned, Illia, to give a voice, to preserve the identity, and that to make sure that this filter in the eyes, it's not blocking us from the possibility of listening your own voices and the expression of the culture. So it is in this level that we can have a possible action from us festivals. That's why it's so relevant to hear you, all of you here in this talk.
Actually, an air raid alert started. I switched off the sound on my phone. It's in the city now. So yeah, I think I will be wrapping up. It's okay.
Yes, actually, I was going to say we don't want to take you much more of your time. You have been so generous. I mean, we really appreciate sharing your thoughts, your vision, your experience, what's going on right now. And again, a very heartfelt thank to all of you and all our strengths and support. Here we are. And please know that in Vision de Réel, you have a house to express yourself.
And we are with you, by your side.
And thank you so
by
much.
Your side.
Thank you so much for doing this and for opening up, for hearing these voices, because I know it's difficult. And I mean, we need at least a few more conversations like this. And we all can, I believe, we can come to some interesting insights. And I just love Vision de Réel, and I really think this is amazing festival, amazing programming, and I really love the film that won the short film, I think last year or the year before, about the soldier who retired from the war and he designs video games. I don't remember the name. I never thought this film will be so personal to me, but now I keep coming back to it in my thoughts and in my thinking what film I should make, what cinema can say in this war. So thank you.
Maybe
thank you.
Illia,
thank you all.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Maybe Illia and Artem, a small world for ending the discussion.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's really important for us and for me personally. As for me, a festival is also very important. And when we were doing a festival, I was really paying very big attention to the programming you had at the time, and now trying to watch everything. Also, as a final thing, I wanted to say is also about the support that could be done for Ukrainian industry. From Europe, from the West, from capital W, is actually a financial support of film production. The system should be organized and still thought, but the thing is that Ukraine will not have funds for production because first we have to survive, and it's obviously that most of the money will go now to the arms and to the army, and then to rebuilding the country, to make the country again, because some cities are totally demolished and people don't have place to live and stuff. So of course, film in this situation is like a luxury. And I think, and I'm trying to promote this idea that the international funds should be organized that would substitute this financial mission to keep the Ukrainian film industry alive, because most of the independent Ukrainian films that you can see in Vision de Réel or in any other international festival, they were funded through government, and our government will not be able to do that. So that's a thing that should be done and organized in the future. Or maybe now. We don't have a future, we just have now only the present. So we have to actually start thinking and doing that now.
With an immediate reaction, yeah. Artem, would you like to say something before we wrap?
I will join the others to thank you for this meeting, and I think it's really important that we speak like this, and maybe we do some more with the same people or different, because I think it can give something for all of us, some new ideas, some new actions to do. And it's really important, as you said, to react immediately to create some funds to help filmmakers, to help culture, to help militaries.